You're listening to Myers-Briggs Question Corner with Edythe Richards. Hello listeners and happy holidays. Today's podcast is going to focus on holiday gift giving. Now, I don't know about you, but I always stress quite a lot at this time of year. And a big reason for this is because I never know what gifts to buy for my friends and family. So if you're anything like me and you've waited until the last minute to do your holiday shopping, you'll definitely want to tune in. Now, let me introduce Edythe Richards, Myers-Briggs Master Practitioner and founder of the consulting firm A Top Career. Edythe, welcome.
Hello listeners, and thanks for the introduction, David. I'm with you. This can be a really stressful time of year. I myself love giving gifts to people, and a lot of the fun, for me at least, revolves around trying to figure out what each person would like. What would be especially meaningful for that person?
Yes, that's interesting. I think a lot of people approach gift giving in a different way. For some of us, it's kind of an obligation rather than something that's fun. So could this have anything to do with one's Myers-Briggs type?
It surely could, and this brings up an interesting question. What's the proper etiquette if someone insists on getting you a gift? Are you obligated to return the favor?
Right. So, Edythe, what is the correct thing to do in this situation?
Well, it's awkward, that's for sure. The fact is that anyone can feel embarrassed when they're on the receiving end of an unexpected gift. In that situation, one possible way to respond is, I feel awful. I didn't know we were exchanging gifts and I don't have one for you, but I absolutely love this present. Thank you so much. That's a gracious way to accept a gift and not make the giver feel awkward, because the fact is that some people really do enjoy showing their support through gift giving.
That's an excellent response, Edythe. Focus more on gratitude than on the actual gift. And that brings me to this question. Do you think certain Myers-Briggs types are more likely to be gift givers?
I believe there are certain people who are more likely to give gifts to others, whether it's due to their Myers-Briggs type, their love language, or just because of how they were raised. There could be multiple reasons.
That makes sense. It's a good reminder that the Myers-Briggs can't explain everything about why we behave the way we do. But it also reminds me that we do tend to behave in a way that's most natural for us. And there may be an unconscious assumption that others want the same thing, or they'll maybe appreciate gifts as much as we do, or not, as the case may be.
Well, it's funny you should mention that, David. Just yesterday, a colleague of mine invited me to her holiday party. It's a yearly event that she has at her home, and I asked what I could bring. She was pretty adamant about telling us to just bring ourselves, and I was insistent that I can't go to someone's house without a gift or something to share. And she was equally insistent that no, you really don't need to. And as I pondered that last night, I thought, wow, Edythe, you're really looking at this from your own point of view, and don't you always encourage others to look at situations from the other person's point of view?
Wow, talk about awareness now, Edythe. It just goes to show you that even someone who's an expert, someone that's very skilled and experienced in these matters, can revert back to their own preferences.
Yeah, I have to give myself a break sometimes. But what I'd really like to focus on in this podcast is more of a guide for gift giving. We talked a lot in previous podcasts about spotting Myers-Briggs types and how to relate to different personality types, but we've never done a podcast on gifts for each type. So let's just lay it out there for our listeners.
Well, it's surely the perfect time of the year to do it, Edythe, so let's dive right in then. We'll give a brief description of each type, and then you and I can both brainstorm on some gift ideas that might appeal to their type preferences.
Perfect. Let's start with ISTJ. They're known for their loyalty and responsibility. They're the ones you can count on to get things done accurately and on time.
Yes, and remembering our article, How Myers-Briggs Types Give Thanks, ISTJs are the ones who have a checklist for everything that needs to be done in the order specified.
Oh yes, that was a fun article to put together. And listeners can find it, again, How Myers-Briggs Types Give Thanks, on my website, www.atopcareer.com. So thinking of ISTJs and what they'd like to receive for a holiday gift, I'm thinking anything that will help them to stay organized. They're going to be all about practicality with gifts. So think about what they might need to make their lives easier, whether it's a leather planner or a system to improve their workflow. They're also very attuned to the past, so gifts that bring up pleasurable childhood memories would be special, like a collectible lunchbox or an action figure, an autographed book, a rare music item found on eBay or Amazon that coincides with something they enjoyed from their childhood.
You gotta love a great action figure. Now, that brings up several options. Now, ISFJ is similar to ISTJ, same dominant function of introverted sensing, if I recall correctly. So would these gifts also appeal to ISFJs, Edythe?
Yes, they certainly could. My partner is ISFJ, and he loves toys and gadgets that remind him of his childhood. Also, similar to ISTJs, pay attention to the books they have. A particular genre or author could give you a clue as to what they enjoy reading. Gift cards or subscriptions to something like Audible or Amazon are always a good idea too, because then they can get what they want.
Right, gift cards. Now, some people may feel that gift cards aren't personal enough though, but I admit that it's often the easiest way to go.
I think for some personality types, it may be a more sensible choice. And let's face it, ISTJs and ISFJs are the most sensible of the 16 types. So I really don't think you could go wrong with a gift card to a place they normally shop, or even a spa or salon they tend to visit. Another thing, many ISFJs are aesthetic and visual and drawn to beautiful things, decorations and such. So that's something to keep in mind. For example, when you're wrapping the gift. Anything you've taken the time to put together to show that you care.
Ah, nice one. Duly noted.
In my partner's case, it's about beautifully designed cars with sleek lines and no damage.
Well, I guess everyone, regardless of the Myers-Briggs Type, has their hobbies and other things they enjoy. But you mentioned some good safe choices for gifts, I have to say. Now, let's move on to ESTJ and ESFJ. The other sensing judging types. If I remember, these people also tend to be traditional and practical. Edythe, will there be any similarities here?
Let's look at ESTJs first. Definitely practical people. They may even have a list of things they need or would like. In terms of gift cards, rather than thinking about a particular store where they shop, it might be a safer bet with an ESTJ to give a Visa gift card or just plain cash. That way they have the freedom to choose where and how they want to spend it. These folks can be pretty tricky to buy for because they tend to go out and buy things themselves if they need them or they want them. On the other hand, if you have a close relationship with an ESTJ and you're a craftsy or creative person, your ESTJ will likely appreciate something handmade, something you took the time to make. Bottom line, ESTJs like to organize things and people, so anything that can help them do this would be good.
Well, based on this description, I'm thinking something like a Fitbit or tracking device, if they have exercise goals they're working on. Or just make it easy and give them some money so they can get what they want, like you said.
Right, why not make it easy on yourself? So, moving on to ESFJs. These folks I've found are a little different. They tend to love the holidays and all the parties and get-togethers and traditions. They will also, like the ISFJ, appreciate a beautifully wrapped gift, but they may like something more social per se than a tangible gift, if that makes sense. ESFJs really appreciate quality time with their loved ones, and as is the case with many feeling types, the gifts they most appreciate are the ones money can't buy.
So maybe a dinner out or something like that.
Right, that's always appreciated by ESFJs, but in terms of tangible gifts, like ESTJs, they'll appreciate handmade things and things like shelves or containers to keep them organized. Females will like jewelry or classic clothing items like a beautiful scarf, so those are good ideas too. In terms of a hostess gift, I'd say something practical like a really nice bottle of wine or some baked items or chocolate from a great local bakery.
You can't go too far wrong with wine and chocolates. Who wouldn't love those things? So we've gone through the list of SJ personality types, Edythe. Shall we move on to SP, sensing perceiving types? Now, these people are, I imagine, going to be drawn to different types of gifts because of that last letter, P, not J. Now, if I recall in some of our previous podcasts, SPs, especially ISTPs and ESTPs, like a lot of outdoor or risky kinds of activities.
Yes, gifts with an experience theme would be a really good choice, as would food or drink gifts. Let's take a closer look at ESTPs first. Like you said, David, ESTPs are action-oriented people and love an adventure. They may be athletes themselves or enjoy watching or participating in sports. And every ESTP I've ever known is a foodie or appreciates a good drink. Food and drink items are usually a good choice depending on what type of food and drink they like. Practical kitchen gadgets would be a good choice too. Experiences will rank high with ESTPs. Music concerts, for example. And if all else fails, money that they can use toward whatever they'd like to buy is a safe choice.
Yes. The one guy I know who I'm convinced is an ESTP. I think I actually talked about him in a previous podcast. He's got pretty expensive tastes in terms of all these adventures he goes on and the sport equipment he buys. I'd venture to say he would just appreciate more money because he can always put it towards one of these more expensive trips or gadgets. Certainly I could help by making a donation towards it, whatever that may be.
There you go. Great choice. Now, ISTPs are, in my opinion, one of the hardest people to buy a gift for. Most ISTPs I've known aren't people who get excited about the holidays. The less discussion and fuss, the better. This includes their preference for gifts. At the same time, they're also very practical people and tend to like gadgets, but the gadgets need to be useful to them. A great gift for an ISTP would be a gadget that they can use for one of their hobbies.
So maybe a tech gadget if they're into technology. Or video games or something like that. Or gadgets they can use around the house maybe.
Those are good ideas. Pocket knives, tools for fixing things. And like ESTPs, ISTPs appreciate food gifts and gifts of experiences too, like rock climbing or a skiing trip.
Some similarities with ESTPs there. Edythe, how about ESFPs and ISFPs?
Well, both are going to be attentive to what their loved ones would like as gifts, and as recipients, they'll care a lot more about how heartfelt the gift is than what it cost. Both would love to receive a gift that shows you know who they are as a person and how much you mean to them.
That makes it a bit more difficult, especially if you're a thinker like I am. Do you have any specific suggestions?
I think both will value an experience. The ESFP will probably appreciate something with a large group of people, like a game lots of people can play, or a physical activity party like bowling or mini golf and dinner, or a concert. ISFPs, on the other hand, will prefer quality one-on-one time, dinner or coffee, for example, but many ISFPs also like adventure gifts, such as whitewater rafting, canoeing, or a concert, or a road trip. While ESFPs are more about doing, ISFPs are often more about making, so they may like artist supplies or even artwork. Both will appreciate practical gifts, such as things to make their homes look good and run smoothly, and both will appreciate non-tangible gifts, like helping them with a project around the home or just giving them the gift of your time.
Yes, that's a good reminder too that gifts don't necessarily have to be things we spend a lot of money on. Some of the best gifts I've actually received didn't cost any money at all.
That's right, a great reminder of what the holidays are really all about. So moving on to NF types. That's ENFJ, INFJ, ENFP, and INFP.
Now, this should be interesting and probably requires a very different approach to gift giving. Edythe, is that fair to say?
Well, these types are all feelers, so they're definitely going to care more about the meaning behind the gift than the actual gift. And for all NF types, guilt is the Achilles heel. So there's going to be some guilt associated with someone spending a lot of money on them.
Really? That's interesting to hear. But I guess it makes sense. feelers tend to be selfless and don't put themselves first because they're always thinking of other people.
Right, they're wired that way. They get a lot of fulfillment from giving to others and helping others. And guilt can be a really powerful emotion. It can make normal holiday activities like receiving gifts feel selfish.
Sometimes we just have to put ourselves first in order to be the best version of ourselves. So with that in mind, Edythe, let's start with ENFJ and INFJ. What can you tell us about gifts that these types would enjoy?
First off, this is true when giving a gift to any NF type. Throw practicality out the window. NF personality types will value a personal, meaningful gift way more than a practical one. It doesn't have to be practical for these types to enjoy it. Looking at ENFJ specifically, spending time together, doing an activity, dinner or coffee, or just conversation are ways to show you appreciate their company. So I'd say incorporate that into any gift you give them. Handmade gifts are also a great idea, and handwritten notes letting them know in writing all the things you really appreciate about them. Another thought is donating to a cause they believe in or make a donation in their name. ENFJs do tend to be big volunteers, and they likely have some causes they rally around. They'll also appreciate books about topics that interest them.
It sounds like just having the opportunity to spend time with loved ones is really what ENFJs would value. Now, how about INFJs?
Well, like many introverted types, INFJs may feel awkward receiving gifts, and as feeling types, they may prefer giving to receiving. But some ideas for gifts for an INFJ will include definitely something personal and something symbolic would be appreciated. INFJs naturally look for depth in relationships, and it's no different with gifts. The key is tuning into who they are as a person and noting their interests and hobbies. Now, INFJs are often voracious readers, so books are great gifts, but you really need to think about what they like to read. Chances are meaningful novels and books related to self-help and psychology would be great choices. Experience gifts, outdoor outings and dinner with loved ones, and creative art supplies are good choices too. And like ENFJs, anything handmade is sure to be a hit.
I see. It sounds like they may appreciate what's written in a card just as much, if not more, than the gift itself. In fact, perhaps this is true for ENFJs as well, Edythe.
That's really insightful, David, and I think you're onto something there. I think words can go a long way with any NF type. Speaking of which, ENFP and INFP. Again, it's the thought that counts with both. One difference with ENFP and INFP is I believe they'll appreciate the surprise aspect of gift giving slightly more than their J friends.
We J's don't always have the best relationship with surprises.
No, you don't, which is why you have a plan B, C, D, E, and so on.
You're right, Edythe. Yeah, good.
Speaking as an ENFP myself, we're not very materialistic people, but we greatly appreciate someone who has taken the time to figure out on his or her own what we would find meaningful. One of the best gifts I've ever gotten was something you actually made for me, David, a mixed CD with every #1 song on my birthday every year since I was born. And I've given gifts like that to people, and they've always loved them. Now, personally, I've always enjoyed gifts of weekend getaways, especially to places I've never been. Other ideas for ENFPs are anything handmade and innovative. We appreciate creative ideas and unique gifts and things that are artistic and symbolic, artwork or jewelry, or things with quotes that resonate with us.
Well, Edythe, that covers a full spectrum of things.
Right. Honestly, I think we'll just be happy with the fact that someone cares enough to do something special for us. And it's very similar with INFPs. The important thing is showing that you're paying attention to the things that interest them. Symbolic and handmade items are favorites, but INFPs will also appreciate a good book, especially a fiction book or something like dream interpretation or creating a future. Like ENFPs, they may enjoy traveling or experiencing new things in new places, so vacations are great, but so is just going out for a coffee or dessert. INFPs love to be imaginative, so anything that helps them access their imaginations are great gift ideas.
So it sounds like the key to all the NF types is to try your best to tune into them and what they like. Don't focus on practicality. Don't worry about how much it costs. And remember that words matter.
Words matter very much to NFs and the meaning behind the gifts.
We're making good progress here. Now, let's move on to the NT types. These would be ENTJ, INTJ, ENTP, and INTP. Edythe, where will we start?
Let me first mention something I read on the Psychology Junkie website. NT types were the least comfortable group of Myers-Briggs types in terms of opening gifts in front of people. They often felt they had to feign a response that would please the gift giver, and that was very stressful to them.
Speaking as a member of this group myself, I certainly do relate to that. So maybe we can start with my type, Edythe, please. INTJ.
Absolutely. This is going to be fun. I'm going to guess that you really dislike feeling like you have to give someone a gift. The social protocol of it, right, David?
Well, why should I give someone a present just because it's Christmas or Valentine's Day or different with children, obviously. But that's not what the holidays are all about. And I don't feel like anyone should be obligated to give me a gift. If I want something, I'm perfectly capable of getting it myself. Unless I can't afford it, of course. I just don't always know how to respond if someone gives me something. It's this awkwardness I have. I'm not sure if it's an INTJ thing, but it's definitely a me thing.
I think there are a lot of other INTJs who can relate to that, which is why cash or gift cards at their favorite stores are usually safe items for you. Is that right?
Well, yes. I prefer to get whatever it is I'm being gifted myself. That way I can make sure it's a good item. I would think technology items are popular with us too. And books, obviously, as well. But again, it has to be things we're personally interested in.
How about food or wine gifts?
Well, I certainly won't say no to a good bottle of whiskey. And some chocolate. Preferably dark chocolate.
Okay, that's easy enough to remember if all else fails. Now for ENTJ types, high quality items if you're looking for a tangible gift to give. ENTJs tend to be innovative and logical, and most I've known have pretty expensive taste. If your budget is low, practical gifts like a new wallet, if the ENTJ needs one, or a new high-quality coffee press are good ideas, or a good bottle of wine. But like many people, ENTJs just like going out to dinner, at high-quality restaurants, of course, or a concert. But something to keep in mind is that ENTJs tend to fill their spare time with activities they're in charge of, and their activities need to have a purpose. So I'd say avoid experiences that involve frivolous or leisurely things.
Yes. Make sure the gifts have a purpose. Got it. Now, how about ENTPs and INTPs?
Right, moving on. Both ENTP and INTP will likely appreciate tech gadgets or video games. Whatever current technology they're fascinated with will be good choices. Now, I'm going to say ENTPs are a little easier to buy for than INTPs. ENTPs probably have a lot of interests, so you can easily think about one of those areas and get a gift accordingly.
So, if they're a Doctor Who fan, some merchandise that represents that. Or if they like beer, a Beer of the Month subscription.
Exactly. Or even a gift certificate to a new brewery. ENTPs also have a great sense of humor, or they think they do. So anything sarcastic or off the wall will likely go over really well. I have an ENTP friend who's a huge Star Wars fan, and I got him a lightsaber umbrella for his birthday once, and he really got a kick out of that.
Nice. I remember our other podcast mentioning ENTP types and their humour, so I can understand, yes, humorous gifts would go over well. Okay, how about INTPs?
Like ENTPs, INTPs enjoy technology and a good joke. The interesting thing about INTPs, though, is that their interests tend to be peculiar, and by that I mean not standard every day. INTPs are often weird, and that's part of their charm, but it can make it difficult for others to figure out exactly what to get them.
Interesting. And as introverts, I'm going to say they probably also feel awkward opening up gifts in front of people, or may even resent the whole gift-giving ceremony.
Right, they may, and they may also struggle with knowing what the appropriate visual or verbal response to a gift is. Safe gifts are usually something to do with their hobbies or interests, or gadgets or experiences related to things that they like. They're probably also big readers, but they probably also have an idea of the exact books they'd like to receive.
So the key to all of this is really about tuning in and looking at each person's unique qualities when you're thinking of getting them a gift. Edythe, this has been a really interesting and informative discussion. Now, has it given you any thoughts on gift giving for Myers-Briggs types this holiday season?
You know, it really has. We're only human after all, and a lot of the time we struggle to figure out what the other person would like, or we look at gifts from our own subjective point of view rather than from the recipient's point of view. For example, I really don't like giving money or gift cards as gifts to anyone on any occasion. I'd much rather go out and get something personal that I know the other person will appreciate. But the fact is that some Myers-Briggs types and some people really do prefer money or gift cards.
It's true. And within each Myers-Briggs type, we have to remember that each person is a unique person, and some of these gift-giving rules we discussed may not apply.
Absolutely. And as we've talked about before, the Myers-Briggs isn't something that should or will pigeonhole people in any way, and that includes gifts.
Thanks, Edythe. And with that, we've reached the end of another episode of Myers-Briggs Question Corner. To our listeners, we've worked hard this year to bring you a new weekly episode of the podcast series, and so far we've remained ad-free. I'm not a fan of adverts. So I hope you can forgive me today for asking you a favour this holiday season. If you'd be able to spread the word about the podcast, or let other people know about the website at topcareer.com. Letting others know that the advice in the show has helped you is one of the best gifts we could receive. A big thank you in advance, and have a happy and safe holiday season. Thanks for listening to this episode. If you'd like to hear more, or you'd like to submit a question yourself, then you can find us at www.atopcareer.com. Until next time. MBTI and Myers-Briggs are registered trademarks of the MBTI Trust. MBTI and Myers-Briggs are registered trademarks of the MBTI Trust.